Hello and welcome. Tonight, President Bola Tinubu orders immediate release of all minors arrested in connection with the End Bad Governance protests. Nigeria's debt profile is now down to 65% from 97%, and that's coming from President Bola Tinubu as he swears in 7 new ministers with strong optimism on the economy. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission arrests former Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa over alleged diversion of 1.3 trillion naira derivation fund between 2015 and 2023. And Court of Appeal in Abuja discharges and acquits former Chief Justice of Nigeria Walter Onoge over false asset declaration charge.
On Business News tonight, global ratings agency Fitch says it expects high interest rates and rising inflation to drive up non-performing loans for Nigerian banks in the first quarter of next year.
On Sports News tonight, world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka reached the semi-finals of the WTA Finals with a second straight victory in the group stage after a 6-3, 7-5 win over Jasmine Paolini.
From the nation's capital, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, distributes liquid gel fertilizers and sprayers to Taraba residents affected by floods.
And in international news from London, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are pushing their closing messages to voters on the last day of campaigning before America decides its next president.
Call it executive fiat, and that's exactly what it is. President Bola Tinubu has directed the immediate release of all minors who were arrested over alleged participation in August's End Bad Governance protest. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, announced this at the State House Correspondents during an emergency briefing at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. According to the minister, the directive follows an uproar over the trial of at least 76 people, including 30 children, who were arraigned last Friday for treason, destruction of property, public disturbance, and mutiny.
Has directed that these children, these minors, be released immediately. This is, of course, without prejudice to whatever legal processes there are. The President has also directed the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction to immediately see to the welfare of those minors and also take part to ensure their smooth reunion with their parents or guardians wherever they are in the country. Number 3, the President has directed that a committee will be set up immediately to be headed by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. It's actually an administrative committee to look at all issues surrounding the arrest, detention, the treatment, and finally the release of these young minors. And if there are any infractions found to have been committed by any official of government, be him a law enforcement agency or whoever that person may be, appropriate disciplinary action will be taken against him or her.
Well, before the president's directive, 18 youths were arraigned at the Borno State High Court over their alleged involvement in the End Bad Governance protest. The prosecuting counsel informed the court that the protesters created a WhatsApp group to plan the protest using dangerous weapons and display of the Russian flag to disturb public peace. All the suspects pleaded not guilty.
18 alleged protesters, including minors and youths, are conveyed in police vehicles amidst tight security to the Borno State High Court in Maiduguri, the state capital. The suspected protesters are divided into 2 groups, the protesters group and those flying the Russian flag. They are arraigned on 2 counts charge each. The prosecuting counsel informs the court that the protesters created a WhatsApp group to plan the protest using dangerous weapons and display of the Russian flag to disturb public peace. However, the suspects pleaded not guilty to all the charges. The presiding judge, Justice Aisha Ali, then adjourns the case to November 18 for further hearing. She also ordered the detention of the minors at the juvenile section of the correctional center, while the others are to be kept in the prison. The defense counsel calls for speedy hearing of the case.
These people have already suffered in the custody for many months or days, let me say it in that way. So it is the only when the accelerated hearing has been given in this case, justice shall be given to these young people that are been arraigned before this honorable court. Because by doing the accelerated hearing, the case can be faster and then can be speed, and then the judgment has been delivered within a short period of time. That's why we are applying for the accelerated hearing in this case.
The suspects were detained for over 100 days, and some of their parents lament the detention.
My son was at home sleeping. He came out to find out what was happening, only for him to be arrested. These children are all from poor families, and most of them are orphans. Some don't even know their parents died as a result of their arrest.
The suspects were conveyed with police and correctional service vehicles to the Maximum Correctional Center, Maiduguri, the state capital.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu says in spite of the prevailing situation in the country, his administration will not shy away from its responsibilities. Speaking while swearing in 7 new ministers into his cabinet, the president says the country's debt servicing ratio is down to 65% compared to 97% when he came into office. The president is even more optimistic, saying that as far as the economy is concerned, the country has its head above water. Our State House correspondent, Larry Lasisi, reports.
All is set in the council chamber for the swearing-in of the new ministers who are present. Also present are their family members, other cabinet ministers, and top government officials. After their citations were read, they were called forward in 2 batches to take their oath of office. In his remarks afterwards, the president thanked them for accepting to serve.
You'll be part of people who will receive criticism and abuse. Don't worry. Stay focused. Stay resilient. Your thank will come with the history of growth and prosperity for this country.
He touched on the efforts being taken to overhaul the economy.
For us, it was a challenge. When a nation was servicing its debt with 97% of its revenue, it's nothing but end of the cliff. But today I can report to you that we brought that one down and it's at 65%. We stopped the scavengers. We are going to stop completely the profiteers and smugglers of our resources across the country. We are not going to run away from our responsibility. We are going to face it, and we've been facing it headlong.
Some of the ministers outlined their priorities.
Our belief in the ministry is that what you cannot measure, you cannot change. And that does not only affect the large ruminants, that will also affect small ruminants in terms of sheep and goats, as well as pigs, as well as poultry, and all other farmable, edible animals.
We have a diaspora that is doing so well all over the world. And if we can partner with them and ensure that we bring them into the administrative initiatives and use them also to forge strategic partnerships with financial institutions all over the world. That would in no small way enhance the workings and the service delivery for.
The most important thing with the trade agreement is to make sure that we go after optimizing the AfCFTA for Nigerian businesses, which means pragmatically supporting them at this time to export their products. With the investment agenda, it's really important that we retain domestic investment and aggressively attract new investment.
These new ministers will be joining the cabinet in what the presidency describes as a bid to energize the administration and ensure they deliver on their promises to Nigerians. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
Operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, have arrested the former governor of Delta State, Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, for alleged diversion of 1.3 trillion naira derivation fund from the Federation account between 2015 and 2023, when he served as governor of the state. Dr. Okowa was arrested today in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, when he reported at the Port Harcourt Directorate of the Anti-Graft Agency on the invitation of investigators handling his matter. The former governor was alleged to have failed to render accounts of the funds, as well as another 40 billion naira he allegedly claimed he used to acquire shares of UTM floating liquefied natural gas. Dr. Okowa allegedly bought shares worth 40 billion naira in one of the major banks in the country, representing 8% equity to float the offshore LNG, but the funds were alleged to have been used for other purposes. Investigators are also finding out the diversion of funds by the former governor to acquire estates in Abuja and Asaba. He is being held at the EFCC holding facility in Port Harcourt, River State. Let's head to the courts now. The Court of Appeal in Abuja has discharged and acquitted a former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onnoghen, from his conviction of false asset declaration by the Code of Conduct Tribunal. The conviction of Mr. Onnoghen was thrown out by the Appellate Court following the resolution of issues that led to his trial and conviction. Delivering judgment, Justice Abba Mohammed adopted the terms of settlement between the federal government and Mr. Onnoghen, which includes that the tribunal lacked the jurisdiction to have tried and convicted the former CJN, even after he had voluntarily tendered his retirement letter, which was accepted by the then president. Justice Mohammed also ordered that the 4 bank accounts of the former CJN be returned to him.
What that came was the removal of our Chief Justice of Nigeria, the head of the third arm of government, in an unceremonious manner. We all shouted about it. It was maneuvered. Unfortunately, the man became a victim. He was denied access to the Council of States. His monies that were in bank were taken away from him. And his life became almost, with respect, meaningless. If you rise from your call to ban 1978 to being removed as Chief Justice of Nigeria, what is left for you? Nothing. When this happened, anything can happen to any of our judges. And we believe that it not or should not happen in a constitutional democracy. Nigeria is practicing constitutional democracy. And therefore, all organs of government, the executive and the legislature, must respect judiciary. So the judgment today has affirmed the superiority of courts over whims and caprices of occupiers of executive and judicial and legislature. Let it be known by the whole world that judiciary in Nigeria is one of the best in the world. We have men and women of character learning who have sacrificed their life from their early age to old age to become anything in judiciary.
In part 2, after the break, UK's Foreign Secretary says the race for growth and clean energy remain priorities for the UK government on his first official visit to Nigeria. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. President Bola Tinubu orders immediate release of all minors arrested in connection with the End Bad Governance protest. Nigeria's debt profile is now down to 65% from 97%, and that's coming from President Bola Tinubu as he swears in 7 new ministers with strong optimism on the economy. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission arrests former Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa over alleged diversion of 1.3 trillion naira derivation fund between 2015 and 2023. Court of Appeal in Abuja discharges and acquits former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Walter Onoge, over a false assets declaration charge. And former President Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are pushing their closing messages to voters on the last day of campaigns before America decides its next president. We head back to the courts where Justice Obiora Egwatu of the Federal High Court Abuja has issued an arrest warrant against the managing director of Dana Air, Mr. Ranesh, over alleged refusal to appear in court to stand trial. In a ruling, Justice Egwatu held that the arrest of Mr. Ranesh is necessary following his refusal to appear after he was served with a charge and several proceedings taken in that matter. The judge held that in line with Section 184 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, the court can issue an arrest warrant against any defendant who refuses to appear in court. He subsequently adjourned the matter to January the 13th, 2025 for hearing. But on October the 10th, the federal government, through its lawyer, had prayed the court to issue a bench warrant for the arrest of Dana Air managing director. She had argued that Mr. Ranesh had refused to appear for his arraignments in the charge preferred against him by the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation, the AGF. The race for growth and clean energy remain priorities for the UK government as Foreign Secretary David Lammy pays his first official visit to Nigeria. In an exclusive interview with Channels Television's Maokwe Yusuf, the Foreign Secretary believes that this is an area where both Nigeria and the United Kingdom can leverage a mutually beneficial relationship. He also expressed worry over what he termed an unfortunate disaster in Sudan and the growing insecurity in the Sahel region.
It's been very important for Nigeria to be my first visit to the continent of Africa, 120 odd days or so into office. We've prioritized growth as our central mission. We've prioritized the race for clean energy as our second mission. And here in Nigeria, the opportunities for partnership and growth are immense. Obviously, we have a very strong people-to-people relationship, many businesses working across our two countries, so it's wonderful to be here. Well, look, I know that here in Nigeria, there will be many people watching who've really struggled with energy over this last period, are coping with blackouts and little or no energy. In the UK, we've got good expertise. And I have come on this trip with some UK business that are very good at smart meters and clean energy and supporting changes to the grid. But we also have the potential to work with solar, hydropower, the whole range of renewables.
We've had long-term partnerships. The UK has been very supportive in the area of security. How do you think that this is going to be, strengthened, especially with your visit here to Nigeria?
Well, I have signed a new strategic partnership between our two governments. One of the central pillars of that is security and defence. We are meeting at challenging, difficult geopolitical times. All of us worried about the unfolding disaster in Sudan, about the real security challenges that exist in the Sahel. It's been important for me to speak to the Nigerian foreign minister. I will speak to the president today about those challenges and about Nigeria's very, very important regional role. And of course, we will remain in close dialogue, supporting where we can.
The wife of the governor of Edo State, Betsy Obaseki, has reiterated the need for women to be given bigger roles in nation development. Mrs. Obaseki was speaking at a leadership conference designed to empower and protect vulnerable women in the society in Benin City, the Edo State capital. She believes empowering women will bring out the best in them and enhance their potentials for national development.
The inaugural meeting of the Leadership Conference for Nigerian Women is underway with participants drawn from all walks of life.
Catch that spirit of patriotism.
The convener and wife of Edo State Governor, Mrs. Betsy Obaseki, believes that women have the capacity to be in leadership positions if given the opportunity. She notes, however, that the first step is the desire to be in politics.
6 or so years ago, I conceived the idea of gathering women because I was looking for more of a professional women to begin to take an interest in politics and come on board to improve the quality of politics that we play in this state and ultimately in our country.
The keynote speaker is Mrs. Ibukun Awoshika, the entrepreneur and first female chairperson of First Bank Nigeria. She asked for unity and collective empowerment among women.
As we join hands across, find a chance to have hands join behind you from the generations behind you. And you must find the generations ahead of you, and you must lean on them as well. And when we do that, we have power that is connected. When our power is connected, we have superpower. And we use that superpower to get every woman that wants to get to somewhere for the sake of our nation and our state to get there and do great things.
In the breakaway session, speakers make a case for legislative support for gender inclusion while emphasizing the need for active sponsorship for women in politics.
Those that have gotten it right, that are having women representation today, they got it through quota. If you really want to help a woman, you sponsor her.
The conference concludes with the unveiling of the Nigerian Women in Leadership Forum's logo, the mission and the vision.
Mission and vision of the Nigerian Women Leaders Forum.
This is with the expectations of a new beginning for a focused movement to empower and sponsor women across the country.
We have more for you on the news at 10 as we head over to our Abuja studios now where Malkwe Ogun-Yusuf is standing by. Hello, Malkwe.
Hello, Anne. It's good to see you. Well, we're starting off in the northeast of the country where the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, is insisting that it will not relent in providing the needed support for citizens to boost food security and ensure restoration of livelihoods across the country. At an event to provide liquid gel fertilizers to residents affected by conflicts and floods in Taraba State, the agency says the federal government will always provide renewed hope for citizens to enjoy the dividends of democracy. And talking about setting the agenda, the federal government has announced plans to reactivate 417 grazing reserves across the country as part of efforts to reduce the perennial clashes between farmers and herders. At a news conference in Abuja on his assumption of office, the Minister of Livestock Development, Mr. Idi Meha, says the government is determined to prioritize grazing reserves in order to improve the welfare of animals.
Our understanding of the genesis of this matter is what I want to call the pull and push factor. The push factor is that animals generally survive on grasses and water. And where these two are absent, the push factor is to get out of any environment, any ecosystem that doesn't provide these two fundamental basics of animal life. That is fodder, feed, and water. And the attraction, therefore, is the pull factor, where these animals have to migrate to an area where these two factors are readily available. Our approach to this issue is already we have started to mine data. We have a data that is also subject to validation of about 417 grazing reserves across the country. About 113 of these are gazetted. That's just 27%. Once these grazing reserves are available, have no legal encumbrances, and are suitable enough for us to regrass and make all the necessary amenities and fundamentals of life for the livestock to remain in one area. This is exactly what we want to do, and we believe this is a panacea, a permanent solution to this problem.
And in some infrastructure development in the southeast, especially in Enugu State, the governor there, Peter Umba, has flagged up the construction of a 300-bed Enugu International Hospital located at the Rangers Avenue Independence layout. At the ceremony, he pointed out that the hospital will be completed in 13 months and will be equipped with the state-of-the-art technology in line with his commitment to making Enugu a hub for medical business and investment tourism.
By the time this hospital is done, the extensive travel abroad for medical or to seek medical services will come to an end. People will now have Enugu as their destination for medical tourism. It is also going to be equipped with state-of-the-art facilities, and we intend to attract top-notch professionals. It is also going to be a training and research hub. We expect that our students who are being trained would have access to the facilities here, and they would be trained with the best facility you can get anywhere in the world.
Still ahead on the news at 10, global ratings agency Fitch says it expects high interest rates and rising inflation to drive up non-performing loans for Nigerian banks. Well, that's some business news. Do join us again. Welcome back. You're still watching the news at 10. The Bank of Industry has inducted 9 customers across the northern region into its 2024 Hall of Fame, signifying the bank's recognition and the character and integrity of its customers, particularly in the repayment of the credit facilities granted them. The Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Olashopo Olusi, who was represented at the ceremony by the Executive Director in charge of Public Sector and Intervention Programs, Mrs. Mabel Ndagi, said induction into the Hall of Fame carries with it a great responsibility, as inductees now have joined an exclusive network of visionaries.
The Executive Director in charge of Public Sector and Intervention Programs at the Bank of Industry leads other management staff of the bank to this induction ceremony for 9 northern customers into the bank's 2024 Hall of Fame. The inductees, who cut across different strata of the industrial sector, are the second batch of inductees this year.
As an inductee, you join an exclusive network of visionaries and pioneers, men and women who have shaped the industrial landscape of our nation. These members become ambassadors of their industries, serving as role models for the next generation of entrepreneurs and showcasing what is possible with dedication and resilience. Being a part of this network opens doors for greater collaboration, mentorship, and access to a wide range of support mechanisms provided by the Bank of Industry.
One after the other, the inductees are then presented with their plaques.
To the Bank of Industry Hall of Fame 2024.
A representative thanks the Bank of Industry for the support enjoyed over the years.
The expansion has brought about more employment, more productivity, even in the midst of the difficulties we're going through right now. So I want to personally thank BOI for standing by me, and obviously by everybody seated here. And we take it as a great responsibility to always improve and become better in our various businesses.
The BOI Hall of Fame was established in 2014 to recognize and honor customers who have demonstrated exemplary performance in their administration and repayment of credit facilities granted to them by the Bank of Industry.
And that's it from the nation's capital. It's back now to you, Anne, for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you very much, Malwe. Right here in Lagos, financial services group Access Holdings says that it is leaving no stone unturned in advancing the cause of a prosperous Africa through creative art. Access Holdings celebrated African artists the ArtX Lagos 2024 International Fair, which held in Nigeria's Commercial Center.
Access Holdings PLC brings together artists, art collectors, and enthusiasts to the 9th edition of the ArtX Lagos International Fair. This year's edition aims to foster creativity while elevating emerging talent and changing stereotypical views of Africa. This underscores Access Holdings PLC's mission to empower the next generation of African creatives through the transformative power of art.
Our theme this year is Promised Lands, developed through a series of conversations with our curators, in which I express ArtX Lagos's desire to bring catharsis to our community this year.
It's been 9 years of real impact in the art scene and in the life of many young artists who are emerging in our continent. There's excellence in the African continent. We always are seeking for a platform and for an opportunity to retell and change the African narrative. There's no better way to do so than platforms like what ArtX has created in Nigeria and in Lagos.
The Lagos state government promises continued support for the fair, which is fast becoming the biggest event on the continent.
For us in Lagos, it's not just about the creative industry, it's about government creating the right environment, giving the right opportunity, and using the very innovative creative industry to leapfrog some of the various challenges we have in the country. We know that the challenges are enormous. The challenges are in various but we cannot but let the creative mind or the creative industry, die.
2019 winner Yvonne Etionsa receives the Impact Award, wholly contested among previous winners of the Access Holdings ArtX Lagos.
I think it's remarkable what they did. In 2019, they funded me. In 2024, I'm winning an Impact an award, an alumni award, which I did not expect. And now it's also helping to propel my career. So it shows that ArtX is committed to sustaining, investing, and promoting artists at all levels of their career.
Since inception in 2016, the event has become a symbol of empowerment for emerging artists across the continent. And Access Holdings believes its sponsorship will provide more artists with the opportunity to chase their creative dreams.
And still on the ArtX Lagos, which is a leading platform for the promotion of visual arts, has already ended, attracting art enthusiasts from all walks of life. The 3-day event and the project sponsored by Stanbic IBTC Pension featured one of its unique points, the Mark Makers, Unsung Pioneers, which, according to the founder of ArtX, Tokini Peterside, celebrates overlooked Nigerians who have broken boundaries.
It's the third and final day of ArtX Lagos, celebrating visual arts with the hope of bringing them back to the consciousness of Nigerians. Art lovers have come to be part of this event, which first launched in 2016, with so much lined up for them. But first, a brief welcome address by Stanbic IBTC Pensions, sponsors of the event.
At Stanbic IBTC Pensions, we've always believed that our role extends beyond the realms of pensions or finance. We are not just here to secure financial futures, but we are also deeply committed to fostering cultural, social, and artistic development of our communities.
It's quite a busy day for the founder, who also takes on the responsibility of a tour guide, explaining the significance of each artwork.
We have tremendous talent in the country. There's also tremendous talent on the African continent, and we wanted to create a platform that from day one would be global and would bring the very best of the world, the best of our continent, the best of Nigeria, to one gathering place where this celebration of culture, our heritage, our history, and also dialogues about our future can happen.
One of the most exciting points of this event is the mark makers, unsung pioneers.
One of the special things we will also have, as I told you through the exhibition, is a deep dive into the special exhibition Olumide mentioned, which is Mark Makers Unsung Pioneers, which is the specific project this year being sponsored by Stanbic IBTC Pensions in our suite of exhibitions this year.
By bringing these unsung heroes into the spotlight, we are not only acknowledging their impact, but inspiring future generations to embrace creativity and courage in their own pursuits.
A picture, they say, is worth 1,000 words. Here, participants get these in several doses. And Stanbic IBTC Pension says it is proud to collaborate with ArtX on this journey.
Last year and this year, we supported 60 kids. We bring them to ArtX Lagos, two schools in Lagos, one in Abeokuta. And the whole idea is to expose these kids, allow them to appreciate art, and just, stimulate their creative thinking.
Eyes have seen, ears have heard. While we look forward to the next edition, ArtX would hope the message of celebrating our culture, history, heritage, and the future is not just on the lips, but etched in our consciousness.
From the world of art to the world of business, here's Joke Rogers with more on business news.
Thanks, and welcome to Business News. Global credit rating agency Fitch has forecast a surge in non-performing loans among Nigerian banks due to the impact of rising inflation and higher interest rates in the country. In its latest report, Fitch says the loan books of Nigerian banks represented 35% of total assets by the close of 2023, indicating relatively low lending activity in comparison to total assets. While projecting a further rise in monetary policy rate in the last quarter of 2024, the rating agency warned that interest rates and inflationary pressures are likely to erode borrowers' repayment capacity and increase the likelihood of defaults in the coming months. Dangote Refinery has once again reacted to what it describes as misinformation by the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria and the Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria on the price of PMS imported into the country. In a statement signed by its Group Chief Branding and Communications Officer, Anthony Chejina, Dangote Refinery challenged claims by several bodies that they can land PMS at a cheaper price, raising concerns about the possible importation of substandard products and connivance with international traders to dump low-quality products into the country. Dangote Refinery says that post-deregulation, the NNPC set the pace by selling PMS to domestic marketers at 971 naira per litre for sale into ships and 990 naira per litre for sale into trucks, which set the benchmark for their pricing at 960 naira per litre for sale into ships, while maintaining 990 naira per litre for sale into trucks. Meanwhile, the Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria has disputed the allegation made by Dangote Refinery that its marketers intend to import substandard petrol products at a cheaper rate. In a statement released today, the association says that it has concluded plans with its foreign refinery partners and counterparts and financial partners to import the best quality of PMS and then sell far lesser than the present selling rate. Petron adds that it plans to enter the market before December, pending the approval of an import permit license by the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority and access to foreign exchange from the Central Bank of Nigeria. One of the responsibilities of the Presidential Value Chain Unlocking Program is to boost domestic production of pharmaceuticals with a target to reduce inflation in the sector. The national coordinator of the program, Dr. Abdul Mukhtar, gives assurances that the impact should be felt in about 12 months. He was speaking in an interview with Channels Television earlier today.
Local production is a medium to long-term activity. So if I told you that tomorrow we're going to start locally producing products, I would be lying to you. But what we're doing is really laying that solid foundation. I would say within the next 6 months to 1 year, you'll really have products. And I can give you specific examples. In terms of pharmaceuticals, we are working with some of the big pharma, and our focus is really in the pharmaceutical sector. Some of the already existing manufacturers here to make sure that we provide whatever incentive. Last week I was in Lagos, in Shagamu. Actually, I visited one of those big companies. I saw their ambitions to produce APIs, and they're working. And I've also visited a number of other companies to see what they're doing. So all these things will bear fruit as we lay down the policy programs that we're implementing, as we try to raise cheap financing for manufacturers. So I would say to you, in the medium term, in the next 6 months to 1 year, you'll be able to see activity.
The domestic bourse carried on last week's bearish performance as sell pressure on some bellwether stocks drove the all-share index lower at the close of today's trading session. John Mekwa has more.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the stock market report. Well, what a negative way to start the week. At the close of Monday's trade, the NGX lost 317 billion naira. So you can expect that to show right here. So we see losing the 59 trillion naira. We're now at 58.721 trillion. And also here, opened with 97,000 plus, but now we close at 96,907.98. That means the all-share index is down 0.54%. And it's because of Aradel. So Aradel, the latest entrance into the NGX, brought in some value, but now we see profit taking actually really reducing some of that. So we see Aradel lost 9.99% to close at 401 naira 10 kobo. Owando follows suit and lost 9.98%. So you can expect that the oil and gas counter today is very red. Capitan is also down, lost 10%, but doesn't have enough weight, to contribute to the market sentiment. But there are still gainers at the close of today, and leading that we can see Unisol, an interesting one just popped out on us, and we've seen since last week some buying interest on it. So today it's gained 9.96% on its share price to close at 6 naira 18 kobo. You might want to watch out for that. John Holt also is on that list, as well as UBA. So green numbers right here, but at the close of trade, it's the bear that won the day.
That's Business News Tonight, and back to you.
Thank you, Joke. It's the last day of campaigning for both candidates in the U.S. presidential election. At a rally in North Carolina, Donald Trump announced that he intends to place 25% tariffs on all Mexican imports if they do not stop migrants from crossing the border. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, is pushing her closing message with 4 stops throughout battleground state of Pennsylvania. Here's Simon Puser with more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are pushing their closing messages to voters on the last day of campaigning before America decides its next president. Both candidates are in a final sprint across key battleground states, with Harris to campaign in Pennsylvania and Trump heading to North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. On Sunday, Harris vowed to do everything in her power to end the war in Gaza.
And soon to be 47th President of the United States.
While Trump made claims without providing any evidence of election fraud in Pennsylvania.
They are fighting so hard to steal this damn thing. Look at what's going on. Look at what's going on in your state. Every day They're talking about extending hours and stuff. Who ever heard of this stuff? We should have one-day voting and paper ballots.
This year has been difficult, given the scale of death and destruction in Gaza, and given the civilian casualties and displacement in Lebanon. It is devastating. And as president, I will do everything in my power to end the war in Gaza.
Officials have said at least 10 people have been killed after a volcano erupted in eastern Indonesia in the early hours of Monday. Mount Lewotobi Laki-Laki, located on Flores Island, erupted at midnight local time, according to the Indonesian Center for Volcanology and Geological Disaster Mitigation. According to local reports, fiery lava and rocks hit the villages about 4 kilometers from the crater, burning and damaging residents' houses. The eruption is thought to have affected 7 villages. Spanish rescuers are focusing their search for missing people on underground garages and multi-story car parks following last week's devastating floods in Valencia. The death toll after a year's worth of rain fell in parts of the region last week now stands at 217. A car park in the nearby town of Aldaya, capable of holding thousands of vehicles, has become central to the search, but rescue teams have reportedly not yet found any bodies. It comes as Spain's state meteorological agency placed part of the northeastern Catalonia region on red alert for torrential rain, with its capital Barcelona experiencing flooding on Monday morning. At least 36 people have died and several more have been injured after a bus fell into a gorge in India's northern state of Uttarakhand. Photos and videos from the site showed the badly damaged vehicle overturned at the bottom of a hill. Officials said 44 people were on board when the driver lost control and the bus fell into a 50-meter deep ditch in Machula, located in the state's Almora district. The state government has ordered an inquiry into the accident. Buses are the main mode of transport in the Himalayan state, and accidents are not uncommon. The bus was on its way to the state's Ramnanga district when the accident took place on Monday morning. Police say a lightning strike at a refugee camp in Uganda has killed 13 children and 1 adult. Palabek refugee settlement camp is located in Lamwo district. The victims were attending a church service on Saturday evening when the lightning struck. Another 34 people have been injured. Quincy Jones, the musician and producer who worked with Michael Jackson, Frank Sinatra and many others, has died at the age of 91. Jones's publicist, Arnold Robinson, said he passed away peacefully on Sunday night at his home in Bel Air. Jones was best known as the producer of Michael Jackson's Thriller album. Over his career that spanned more than 75 years, he won 28 Grammy Awards and was named as one of the most influential jazz musicians of the 20th century by Time magazine. And hundreds of animal lovers have poured into the Belgian town of Saint-Hubert to attend a yearly animal blessing ceremony organised by the Catholic Church in the Ardennes region. The Dean of Saint-Hubert Basilica, Philippe Gousse, said the tradition goes back hundreds of years when people sought protection in particular from rabies. After a pet-friendly mass, animal owners gathered outside the former Abbey Church in the hope their pet would receive the priest's blessing. The participants came accompanied by dogs, horses, cats and birds. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, and welcome to Sports News. And Liverpool boss Arne Slot lauded Xabi Alonso's record at Bayern Leverkusen ahead of the Spaniard's return to Anfield in the Champions League on Tuesday with the German champions. Alonso scored as Liverpool won the 2005 Champions League finals, was reportedly the Reds' top target to replace Jurgen Klopp as manager at the end of last season. Slot was handed the daunting task of succeeding Klopp, but he has made remarkable start with 13 wins and 1 draw from all opening 15 games in all competitions. Varsity on Sports is back to you, Anne.
Thank you very much, Chris. And the main news again. President Bola Tinubu today ordered the immediate release of all minors arrested in connection with the End Bad Governance protest. Also today, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission arrested former Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa over alleged diversion of 1.3 trillion naira derivation fund between 2015 and 2023. We also told you that the Court of Appeal has discharged and acquitted the former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Walter Onnoghen, of a false asset declaration charge. And Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are pushing their closing messages to voters on the last day of campaigning before America decides its next president. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. Have a wonderful night rest.